Hello and welcome to Nan Loves Food. I am Ann here today with another meal prep and plan, and I am so excited to bring you along in my kitchen. So today I'm going to run you through exactly what we're doing and give you the plan for the week, and then show you what I'm doing just to make sure that my weeknight meals are super duper easy. Now, if you are new here, I do about 3 meals planned a week, which might seem a little low to you, but when you think about okay, leftovers are probably a meal, and we do dinner once a week with my family, and then the weekends are kind of up in the air. It's really easy to fill out 7 days worth of meals. And then I always have backup food, right? I'll always have taco meat in the freezer. I'll always have spaghetti sauce cooked and in the freezer and ready to go. So I always have a couple of things on hand if I need to throw something together for a quick weeknight meal. So this 3 meals is just kind of the foundation and where we're getting started. So if you're popping on, let me know if you can hear me okay. So this week's meals are going to be, we're doing 3 things. We are doing tofu and rice noodles, which is kind of like a stir fry situation. It's like you could put it in the pad thai category, but it's probably not a traditional pad thai. I'm just gonna stir fry some veggies with some noodles and some tofu, and it'll be delicious. The second meal that we're gonna do today is pasta with red sauce. And I've got some sausages that we're gonna cook up, and then I have all kinds of delicious garden fresh produce. It is the end, very sadly, the end of tomato season here for us. And so this is kind of the last of what's coming out of the garden. So we're just gonna throw this together with some peppers from the garden. I've got lovely banana peppers hanging out here. These all came from the garden. And then some fresh herbs. We're gonna sear off the sausage and cook down the veg, and then cook the sausage through, and then come that night, I'll just have to warm everything up, boil the pasta, and that'll be dinner, and then we'll have a side salad with that. The third meal is something that I'm super excited about. I have never tried this before, but one of my favorite Instagrammers recommended this golden curry. So this is a Japanese style curry, which is not something I'm familiar with, but she swears by this, and it's so interesting. I'll open it up for you. It's got basically a roux already in there. So it comes in this brick, and it's perforated on the back. And the ingredients are fascinating. It's wheat and vegetable oil with some salt, sugar, curry, MSG, some color, chili pepper, celery seed mustard, and a couple of other preservatives. So I'm super excited to give this a go. Now on the package, it recommends doing this with beef or chicken or lamb or shrimp. Nice and flexible there. And then some onion, some carrot, and some potato. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this with onion, carrot, and potato. Now, if you have ever tried to cut up a potato and then put it in the freezer or put it in the fridge, it gets gnarly and brown real fast. The outside of the potato will actually oxidize. So to avoid that for our meal prep, we're just gonna go ahead and make sure that our potatoes are clean. And then come day of, I'll go ahead and peel and chop. But that will be the only work that I have to do for that entire meal. So it'll be fine. That's the only work. So yeah, super excited to give those a go. And if you haven't tried this, or even if you have, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I'll let you know how this is. If you're not following me, if you're not watching the shorts that I'm putting out, make sure you're watching those. I'll definitely do a short on this and show you how it went. So those are the 3 meals. We're gonna go ahead and get started with the actual prep here. So, and if you're following along, say hello. Love to say hi. Oh, this is the big cheater. If you're ever doing a quick stir fry situation, grabbing one of these bags of pre-shredded cabbage slaw things is the best. It just makes a super duper easy stir fry. That's all we're gonna do here. So the grocery store prep this for me. I don't have any particular affiliation with this brand. I went to the fancy grocery store today, and this is kind of what they had. Normally, I buy the Dole or whatever normal brand is on the shelf there, but we're gonna just add this with rice noodles. Which, if you are not cooking with rice noodles in your pantry, you are missing out. These are awesome. All you have to do is bring some water to a boil and let them stand in that boiled water for 8 to 10 minutes. And then you rinse them. So they take almost no time at all. They're not fussy. They're very easy to deal with. So we will have our noodles that will heat up that day. We will have the stir fry, like this stuff. And then we'll have some tofu, which I'm actually going to press today. I bought myself a tofu press. Don't mind me while I'm over here. I bought myself a tofu press from Amazon, which is something I have been wanting for a really long time, but just, they were cost prohibitive to me. It really made me angry how expensive they were. Just didn't seem like it was something that was worth spending $30 on to me. Found this guy on Amazon for $7.99, and I was like, all right, we can play with it. Normally, I'm not into like unitaskers in the kitchen, but if you almost break your ceramic plates trying to press your tofu enough times, you're like, I actually see the use of getting a tofu press, which I have done. Because you can absolutely press it on your own. I'm going to go ahead and get tofu out of the fridge here. So this is how we have started buying tofu. This comes from Costco. It's a set of 4. And this is by far the most cost-effective way near me to purchase tofu. And it lasts a good long time. It usually lasts about 4 weeks from the date of purchase. So that's really, really nice. Just to have it on hand. And then if you want to make a quick tofu scramble, or if you want to do something like we're going to do today, it's really easy. Tofu is not something that I grew up with. It was kind of a foreign ingredient to me, but I found that I really like it actually. And it's a good way to do a plantless meal, or a meatless meal. So this is just the brick. Now, I don't think that's actually going to fit, so we'll see how this goes. The tofu is packed in liquid, so we're just going to drain off the liquid as much as possible. Can you check my sound, love? Okay, so here's our brick of tofu. You're going to throw this in here. And I'm just going to keep this pressed for about 24 hours. So this will be for dinner tomorrow night that we'll have. So how this works, it's just a plastic container with a spring inside. And then we're going to take this piece that's got like holes on the bottom to drain so the liquid can come out. And then we have this piece that's going to press down on that tofu. And hopefully, assuming it closes, we'll be able to drain this out. Well, this is stubborn. Well, I'm not sure. Can you come help?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm not pushing hard enough, or it's because it's new, or it's because it's garbage and I should throw it away. Like I say, this is a brand new,
Just smash it, huh?
brand new contraption. I mean, it's supposed to press the tofu, right? So it just needs to It's just like, oh, maybe I'm pushing too hard. It's like not catching the lip of the bottom of the thing. Anywho, we'll play with that later. If I just have to put something on it, that'll work for now. But we already have one protein ready to go, like as far as we're going to do. So day of, we'll just take this pressed tofu and fry it up in our stir fry, and it'll be awesome. All right, so next we're going to get some carrots and potatoes and onions. And like I said, we're just going to leave the potatoes whole, but we're going to wash them so that they're good to go. And I'm just going to keep all of the washed produce in one of these in the fridge, so it's just ready to like dump and go when the day is here. I'm actually going to use this to wash the potatoes as well. I did pick these out at the grocery store, so they're not super gnarly. They're in pretty good shape. Sometimes when you get them out of the bag, they can be a little gross, but these are not. So one of the best ways you can save yourself work when it comes to washing and prepping produce, in restaurants, we will just let stuff sit in water for ages. Because the dirt particles, like just by setting it in there, dirt's already coming off there and I didn't have to do anything. So that's always my preference. If it can just kind of handle itself, much prefer it that way. So we're just going to take a couple of carrots. I think 3 big guys should be enough. To close the dishwasher door, otherwise there's potential for me not realizing it's closed and tripping, or not realizing it's not closed. So I am just taking my Y peeler and making sure these carrots are good and clean. Matthew, can you come adjust my camera so that my cutting board is in the shot? So you technically don't have to peel your carrots, but it does make for a nicer presentation. So we are going to do that. It just tilts, just tilt it a skosh. Oh, you can just see my computer. Okay, can you scoot it in a little bit? Okay, well, you can scoot down a little. So you can, it needs to go up a bit. Sorry, we're still getting the hang of this live thing. That's perfect, thank you. Still getting the hang of this live stuff. Is a little more complicated than it looks to cook live. But I figured it'd be fun so we can like get to know each other and chat. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments. I'm here as much to hang out with you as to get this stuff prepped. So please say hello. All right, so we'll get these carrots situated, and then we're just going to cut them up into reasonably small slices so that they cook pretty quickly in the curry. It looks like the curry goes pretty fast based on the instructions. It only takes about 15 minutes from start to finish. So on the day of, I will go ahead and make rice in the rice cooker because we have one. You know, sometimes I do that ahead, especially if I'm doing fried rice like we did last week, because for fried rice specifically, it definitely works better with rice that is cold. There is some science behind that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know without question that is the truth, that it works much, much better that way. So we will take our scraps. These are totally great to save and use for stock. They just add a ton of flavor, and obviously they're free, like they're paid for, so might as well get as much as you can out of them, or just throw them in the compost. That works too. So we're gonna take the gnarly ends of the carrots. Is the volume okay, Matthew?
Yes.
Thank you. And we're just going to give them a pretty diagonal chop here. So I'm doing like this. And then when it's time to cut the potatoes, we will just do them in a similar size so that everything cooks about the same. It's one of the reasons you'll often see carrots and potatoes together in recipes. It's because they have a similar cooking time, and that's just handy dandy so that nothing gets mushy that shouldn't be mushy, or crunchy that shouldn't be crunchy. And if you want with some of these big guys, like we'll probably cut that in half just so it's not quite as husky. I swear I just sharpened my knife not that long ago. I think it might be time for another sharpen, but carrots are particularly hard. Okay, so carrots are done. These potatoes are in pretty good shape. Like I said, I'm just going to take my adorable little potato washing brush, which again, I do not just use for washing potatoes, but we could have washed the carrots, but because we peeled them, that seemed a little like not necessary, so no big deal. The cool thing about this is, and this was a gift, I wouldn't normally buy this sort of thing, is that there is this little like beak or whatever that can take out the nasty bits on your potatoes, which is just darn cool. So like I say, day of, we will just go ahead and cut up the potatoes, dump the carrots in, and we're going to make this with chicken. That felt like a good generic protein. Since we've never had this before, we can kind of get an idea of how well we like it or don't like it. But I love when they're good pre-made options like that curry in the store. There are a lot of Asian cuisines that I didn't necessarily grow up eating that I'm not super confident in my ability to cook. And if they're kits or prepackaged things like that, it just really helps boost my confidence in the kitchen. You might think, well, gosh, you were a professional chef. Do you need more confidence in the kitchen? Yeah, I do. There's stuff that I am not familiar with doing. And obviously, especially on a weeknight, I'm looking for a good result. I just want the food to taste good. So here we are. We have potatoes and carrots, and that will be for our curry. Now we're going to chop up the chicken that I bought a little bit later. But right now I want to go ahead and get started on, let's see. We're kind of done with the rice noodles. Like we don't really need to do anything else because we have the bag mix and we have the tofu crust. We are kind of done with the curry except for cutting the chicken, which I'm not going to cut chicken yet because I don't want to get my board all nasty. Order of operations is very important in the kitchen. So I guess we're just going to go ahead and start with the tomatoes. So like I say, I went out to the garden and picked a bunch of delicious tomatoes. We've got a bunch of different varieties out there, but at the end of the day, they're all tomatoes and they'll all make a good sauce together. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to plug in my slow cooker back here. Now, if you didn't watch my slow cooker video, I would highly recommend you check that out. The reason I love this slow cooker above all the slow cookers is that it has a searing function. And man, does that just come in handy all the time. So we're going to take this lid off, push the sear and saute button, and take a little bit of neutral cooking oil and put that in there. because we are going to start by searing our sausage so that that is done and we don't have to mess with it. Like I said, I went to the fancy grocery store. So, Matthew, it says I have an unstable connection.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, if you're hanging out and the connection isn't great, I apologize. I'm not sure what can be done on my end about that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with an onion, actually. Oh, that's the other thing. I do have ginger back there for my stir fry, because we'll definitely do some ginger and garlic to go in that stir fry. If you can hit it with some good fresh aromatics, make a huge difference in your overall flavor. Like the more you can do to build that flavor through simple things like ginger and garlic, the better the food is going to taste. And it's going to taste like professional, like it came out of a professional kitchen. So I'm just going to chop my onion up in slices like this because it's going to kind of cook with the sausage. And ultimately, the final goal for this is I'm going to take the tomatoes and the peppers and the onions and just blitz them all up with the immersion blender before I put it away. I don't know if you guys will be with us for that portion, which is probably good because you don't want to hear the immersion blender in the microphone anyways. But that will just make it all one, like, kind of ground up sauce, like you would expect a sauce for pasta to be. But I love the addition of peppers in that sort of sauce. So we are searing back here. And I'm going to just go ahead and throw our delicious sausages in. They had two different kinds that were intriguing to me. They had one that was called just like sweet Italian, and they had one that was called Ultimate Italian. And I don't know what Ultimate Italian is, but I knew that I wanted it in my life. So we have two of each going in. I am leaving them in the casing. You certainly don't have to, but because we're going to fish these out in a bit, it'll just be easier. And then we'll serve them whole. All right, so sausage is going. It's time to get our peppers underway. So these are mostly banana peppers. There are a couple of poblanos that kind of snuck into the mix. We are getting to a point where peppers, our last day of gardening, sadly, is probably going to be around October 15th is our last projected frost date. So then there will be no more peppers. So I'm trying to get as much out of the garden as I possibly can, which is where the inspiration for this dinner kind of came from, because we want to get all this used. Now, I grew up thinking that I didn't actually like peppers, and I'm so sad that that's what I thought, because it turns out I really love peppers. I just really, really, really hate green peppers. Like green bell peppers, they're not for me. But I love banana peppers. I love poblano peppers. I love shishito peppers. Like they're way up there on my list. Absolutely love them. So we're just going to grab out a garbage bowl or a compost bowl so that I can put all these seeds. So I just cut them in half, and I'm just going to use my finger here. Because these are just bananas, they're not hot. But even with my serranos, which are still like not hot, I cut some up yesterday. I've been making hot sauce out of what's coming out of the garden. And I definitely tasted my finger, like I put my finger in my mouth and I was like, oh, there are pepper oils on my hands. So please be cautious if you're using hot peppers. Those oils will hang out on your fingers for a very long time, like multiple days, and you'll just forget and stick your finger in your eye or something, and that's no good. So I definitely almost had to go to the hospital one time because of doing that with some jalapenos that were from a farmer's market. So my guess is that somebody saved seeds and they got cross-pollinated with something like a habanero or something very, very hot. And I wasn't wearing gloves. And I made some jalapeno peppers and really, really thought that maybe I would end up in the hospital because it just burned. My hands were on fire for like 24 hours. It was really bad. And it was sad because I was on vacation and kind of ruined the trip. So nobody wants that to happen. So we're just going to get all the seeds out of these peppers, and I'm just using my thumbnail and kind of scraping the innards out, and that works just fine. And again, we'll just go ahead and throw this stuff in the compost when we're done here. I'm going to get these pepper seeds off my knife, and the sausages are definitely coming away back there. I will give them a turn in just a second. Just want to get these sauteed a little bit, or chopped up a little bit so they can get a little saute on them. You know, it always amazes me whether I've got a crazy busy week or, you know, a not so busy week. Anytime I do this for myself where I've got everything prepped and ready to go, I'm always so grateful that I can come home after a long work day and just be able to rely on the work that I've already done. And I still kind of get credit, whatever that means, for preparing a homemade meal that is from scratch, that I like cut and grew these peppers. But I also didn't have to like work that hard on a weeknight. Okay, peppers are going in, and we're gonna give these sausages a turn because they sound like they are getting nice and brown. Not quite. So I'm just wiggling everything around to make sure that like the surface of the sausage is touching the pan, if you will, just to make sure that we're getting, you know, that nice brown sear happening. These are garden fresh tomatoes, so they've got some like gnarliness, but that's, you know, that's what happens when food grows naturally and organically. Generally, you would take the skins off of tomatoes for sauce, but it's not what we're doing today. So I'm just going to cut these up into chunks because, like I said, we will be processing these with the immersion blender later. But I do want them to like cook down and through and get all the delicious sweetness out of them. So I have some paste tomatoes, which is what you would traditionally use to make a sauce with. But we've got all kinds. That was a beef steak that I just sliced up there. It's been a very hard year for tomatoes, at least around here. I know a lot of my gardening friends have also had a tough time with getting a good yield. I planted enough tomato plants. I should have been able to keep a small village full with tomatoes, and it just didn't happen this year. It was just didn't get quite the volume that you would expect out of that many tomato plants. I will say that one of these these guys that are kind of funny looking. These are the varietal is called Barry's Crazy Cherry tomatoes. I know that a lot of the growers, seed brands sell those. They have been incredibly prolific for me. They grow in clusters, so they're like, I don't know, like 20, 30 tomatoes in a cluster, which is just really amazing to look at. They're beautiful and they're super duper sweet, which I really, really like. Means you have to add less sugar to your tomato sauce. So, and then these little guys are blueberries, blueberry, yeah, blueberry tomatoes. That is the varietal. They look really cool. They take forever to ripen, so I probably will not grow those next year. But that's part of the fun of the whole thing, is getting to experiment and try new things. And you're never going to find, or more likely than not going to find blue tomatoes at the normal grocery store. You might find them at the farmer's market. So I'm just going through and picking the tops. So when there's like the greenery still on these, I definitely want to make sure that that gets off of there so we don't eat it. Some of the tomatoes are split a little bit, but they're fine. One of the things that gardening has taught me is to be a little less fussy about how my food looks, how my produce looks, because you know what, more often than not, it's just all right to eat. So this is one of our favorite dinners. We love like sausage and tomato sauce. I did go ahead and harvest a bunch of herbs from my Click and Grow, which is my indoor gardening system, this afternoon as well. And I've got them sitting right here. So once the sausage has kind of had time to cook and do its thing, we will add the tomatoes, and we'll also add a bunch of fresh herbs to the sauce, which will just give it that extra bit of dimension and interest. I also have not yet added any garlic to the sauce, which is obviously something we'll have to do. Wasn't sure if I'd have enough tomatoes to make sauce, but it looks like I've got plenty. I do also have some stored in a Ziploc bag in my freezer, so we'll pull those out eventually and make sauce out of those too. They freeze really well. Alrighty, so tomatoes are done. I'm actually just going to dump them back. This is the bowl for my my salad spinner, but I use it for basically all of the produce washing things. Everything's running around. It's a party. And I will go ahead and cut up a little bit of garlic. Oh, no, I'm actually not. Yeah, I'll cut it. I have a garlic press too. I use that sometimes. But I think today I'll just cut it because we've got the cutting board out, and why not? Giving the cutting board a little rinse here, which is another major advantage of doing it this way, is that I'm only going to wash this cutting board once. So I'm using the pre-peeled garlic, which is one of my favorite ways to buy garlic. And I'm just going with a very rough chop here because, like I say, we're going to blend this up. So, cut on the sausages again. And we're getting some lovely caramelization on the sausage, you see? Beautiful. They are still raw though on the inside, which is fine. We're going to have plenty of time to cook in this sauce, but I just want to make sure that we've got a good sear on them and a good sear on these onions and peppers so that we're developing as much flavor as we can in our sauce. And it's just important to move everything around because we've got kind of a lot going on in that kitchen. All right, so that is done. We're gonna put the garlic in the bowl with the tomatoes because they're all gonna hang out together. And let's go ahead and get some garlic and some ginger cut up for stuff later. Now, if you've ever used like Home Chef or one of those companies, I love these little jars for stuff like this. Here's some green onion too. We're just going to give this a little rinse. The green onions. And I like to use the green onion both for the dish itself, like for the cooking portion of the dish, and then also for the garnishing of the dish. Again, it's just a little bit of green onion, even though green onion is super inexpensive and very easy. It's not a difficult ingredient. Adding just a little pop of fresh color on top of your food just makes it look so much better. It's amazing. And as you know, we eat with our eyes. So the more we can do to really make sure that we've got everything looking nice, you know, the happier our eyes will be. All right, so the green onion is done. I'm actually going to try and put like the green portion towards the bottom of our container so that when I go to cook with this, the whites will be towards the top. So I grab those first because we'll want to cook those down. You really want to garnish with the green part and kind of cook with the white part as much as possible. But it's fine if things mix and match a little there. There are no hard and fast rules. But sometimes the whites can be a little crunchy, maybe a little crunchier than you might want on your dish. Okay, so green onions done there. And then we'll just take a tiny little mason jar. And I got this huge thing of ginger. We don't need all this, but last time I tried to get ginger from my grocery store, they were out. So you can use a spoon to do this. I hate that. It takes forever. You know, in professional kitchens, making sure that you waste as little as possible is directly tied to the profitability of the restaurant, right? Like that shouldn't be a surprise. But in your home kitchen, you know, if you shave off 5 cents worth of garlic or ginger and make your life a little easier, you're fine. You know, it's not that big a deal. It's just that when you're doing it with 5 cents, you know, 1,400 times a day, those numbers can add up very quickly when you're doing things at scale and at volume. But in the home kitchen, we're not nearly as worried about those things. So I'm just using my knife to kind of cut off the outside and reveal the inside of the ginger. I'm not being terribly precise about the whole thing. I'm just kind of going at it. If you are not super comfortable with your knife, maybe it would be a good idea to use the spoon thing. A spoon will totally scrape off this outside skin of the ginger. It absolutely works, but it's just a little bit more time intensive, which I'm always trying to save time in my kitchen. So I'm just going to do this the knife way, but do what works best for you. That's the beauty of cooking at home, is that you've got that option. So then I'm just going to take my little thumbs of ginger here, and I'm not going to, I guess I'm going to mince them pretty fine because this is for a stir fry. So I'm just going to chop them, and then we'll come back and mince with the garlic. We're going to do about equal parts ginger and garlic. Maybe a little bit more ginger because I like the bite that ginger brings to the party without actually bringing too much like heat. So we'll just get it a little smaller here. and then get out some more of that garlic. One of the most underutilized tools in the kitchen is your nose. Your nose can tell you a lot about what's happening, about what's going on, and you should use that. If you can smell, like I can smell that we're starting to get close on those sausages. And because I'm paying attention to the fact that I can smell that, it's actually really useful, because then I don't have to keep such a close eye on things, because I can be like, oh, that smells like it's getting close to burning. And as you spend more time in the kitchen, you'll recognize that for yourself. Like you'll notice it, like, ooh, that smells like it's getting browned, because brown has a smell. Like when you're browning food in your oven or on your stove, you know, that's why it tastes so good. It's that Maillard reaction that happens, all the chemical reactions that make your food brown. But it brings out a flavor and it brings out a smell. And if you can train yourself to recognize that, it can be really, really good for your culinary journey. You'll burn less stuff. So that's super important. So I'm just using my knife. I'm holding it here and holding it here and just kind of rocking back and forth and just getting everything a little minced up. We don't need to go crazy small here. But we do want to get things at a decent mince. And right now we are all over the place in terms of size. So we definitely want to fix that. But like chopping ginger and garlic is one of those things that if it's just me left to my own devices on a normal work day, I'm probably not going to go through all this work. But I love it. Like I love the flavor of the fresh ginger and garlic. And it will add so much to the meal. And because I'm investing my time in our weeknight dinners now, it's really good. I will thank myself later. Okay, so we've got everything minced enough. We're not like super crazy fine here. I just found a big hunk of ginger that was hiding. Make sure that gets small. Gizmo is very upset about something. So we have our lovely ginger garlic. It's not really a paste, but ginger and garlic ready to go. So that's ready when we are. All right, it looks like we are getting to a place where we can probably take those sausages out. We're not going to, they're not done cooking, like they're not cooked through yet, but that's fine. We don't need them to. We just want to, yeah. We just want to be able to get everything else going. In the bottom of the pan, there is a ton of beautiful, like fond, which is the sticky bits from the brown. And that will make such delicious stock, or sauce in this case. So I'm dumping all of our tomatoes and all of our garlic in there. And we're going to give this a big stir around. Now those tomatoes are going to release a ton of liquid. So I'm not too worried about, you know, deglazing the bottom of the pan. I'm just going to stand here for a second and make sure that stuff is scraping off the bottom so nothing burns to the bottom of the pan. But we're going to have all of this deliciousness just cooking together in harmony. And now we're going to take it off the saute, and I'm just going to use the slow cook high function, and that will work beautifully to keep us all together. So moving on, we are very close to the end here of what we wanted to accomplish today, which makes me very happy. We are going to go ahead and chop up, like I say, my sad little herb garden is at the end of its natural life. So I grabbed just a hunk of stuff, some of which looks a little gross, so we won't use that. The basil got a little burnt by the lamp, so we just won't use those bits. But there are some still some good basil leaves on there. So, and the smell of fresh basil, whew, so good, so good. So I'm just picking off what I think I can use from this. I also have some dried, actually that's basil. I have some fresh oregano and I have some fresh parsley. They all kind of seemed Italian-ish, and so they're all going in the pot with the tomatoes. And they'll just add a little bit of color and, you know, that fresh herby greeniness that fresh herbs bring. But again, some of these are not in excellent shape, so we're just going to kind of pick off what we want to use and toss the rest. This oregano got very leggy on me. Normally when you buy oregano in the store, the leaves are much bigger and it's like much more succinct, but this was coming to the end, and so this is what it does because it's reaching for more light and more nutrients. But I really love having the fresh herbs in my home. That has been such a blessing. It just lets me add these little elements that make dinner feel special, even when it's like a normal Tuesday. That having that really, it's just really nice. And then not having to spend like $4 on one of those little plastic containers of herbs, which is just not something I'll do very often, especially because if you do grocery delivery like I do, a lot of times the folks who are doing that shopping don't necessarily do the best job picking, or maybe the product, maybe they just don't have good options there at the store. But I've not had a ton of success ordering online with the plastic containers of fresh herbs. They're always a little gnarly on the inside. Okay, so we have a nice pile of herbs here on the board, and I'm just going to give those a quick run through with my knife. Like I said, again, we're going to be blending all of this up, so we don't need anything artful, just a handful of fresh herbs, and it's going in there. And now we have not salted this at all, so we know that it's going to need some of that for sure. And I'm just going to use my kosher salt and have a good palmful or so that we will just sprinkle inside. And as this cooks down, I'm going to add some tomato paste to add some depth and richness to our sauce. Tomato paste is just tomatoes that have basically been cooked down for a really long time. And you can make it yourself by cooking down your tomatoes for a really long time, but the shortcut from the store is always welcome. All right, so we are on to the final task for this evening, which is to cut up our chicken. So I just grabbed some chicken breast from the store, and I'm just going to cut those into chunks that'll be appropriate for our curry. I do not like these types of containers for chicken. I never see them to open them right. I think you're supposed to have like dry hands when you open them, which who has dry hands in the kitchen? Not this gal. So I have a garlic covered knife, which is how knives should be, probably. So again, I'm just going to do like big bite-sized chunks, and then that will be ready and available when dinner comes around for that curry. So we are just about done for the evening. We have our stir-fry noodles ready to go. That's just going to be that cabbage and the garlic and ginger and rice noodles and the pressed tofu. So that'll be delicious and super easy. I'll just hit that with a little bit of, soy sauce and sriracha and maybe a little bit of sesame oil, and that'll probably be about it. It'll be pretty simple. And then we're going to do this lovely Japanese curry with the chicken and the potatoes and the carrots. And finally, we are going to do this pasta with red sauce and the sausage, which is going to be super duper good. And when it's kind of done cooking down later this evening, I'll just hit it with that immersion blender. We'll throw it in a container, and that'll just need to be heated up and tossed with some pasta, and that dinner will be ready too. So I hope you found today's live stream your life in the kitchen easier and more efficient. And if you like this type of content, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We'd love to make you part of our YouTube family here. Thanks so much for watching today. I'll see you later. Bye.